Hi everyone, welcome to Module 9 in zybooks. Module 9 in zybooks covers what we call branches in Java, right? So in the programming world, there are 3 data structures that you need to learn to know how to program in any language in the world. And the first one we've actually started, it was the top-down sequential logic control structure. There's no branches, there's no if statements, there's no loops. So that's the first one we did, was a sequential process in programming. This is the second one, and next week will be the third one. Branches are if statements. So what you're going to learn here is how to program branches in, and I want to do this program with you. I'm pulling up JGrasp. Again, I'm going to go somewhere in my downloads folder, which is where I like to put stuff, create a new folder, and I'm going to call this Module 9 Branches. I might have a folder out there already named that. Maybe not. Okay, there we go. I'm going to pull that up. Now my screen is clear, and so I'm going to code with you. And what in this program, what I'm going to do is I'm going to input some data in the program. What we're going to do, file new Java, write code to determine if we qualify for a loan. This is a standard program that we use a lot of times just to show you how to use if statements or branches. If we make more than $30,000 and we have at least 2 years of service, we qualify for a loan. Otherwise, we don't. So that's the code I'm going to write. Okay? So we always put a comment up there. You would put your name and date if you were programming in the real world. And we're going to start coding. We are going to ask the user to input some data. So we are going to use the scanner class. So that always comes above our class. Import java.util.scanner. Don't forget your semicolon there. That just takes lots of practice to get those import statements correct. Okay? We're going to call this class loan qualifier. We're going to open it up and close it. Don't forget, all classes in Java start with a capital letter. And it's a structure, so we surround them by curly braces. Then we're going to write the main header, public static void main, string array of arguments, or you can call it obs. It's whatever you need to call it there. Usually we call it arguments is what's standard, but you can call it whatever you want. This is my end main. These are comments here. This is my end class. Okay. So I want to write in the input process output mode. Okay, so my input, I'm going to have 2 variables, one to hold at least the salary and one to hold years. And we're going to make these whole numbers so we don't have to mess with doubles. So I am going to make them integers. So we'll call it salary. We'll start that off at 0. And then years of service, camel case, right? Start that off at 0. I need to declare a scanner object so I can get data from the user. So scanner, we'll call it keyboard. You can call that whatever you want. You'll see it use scan a lot. And the way we write that is new scanner, and inside there system.in. Now look at our code so far. How many classes do I have here? Loan qualifiers a class, scanners a class, systems a class. How do I know that? Because they're all capital letters. Okay. So I'm going to get some data from the user. I actually want to make these up here constants. Let's make them constants. We haven't done that yet. To make a variable constant, you put the word final in front of it. It still has to have a data type. Normally these would be capitalized. Let's say 30,000. because that's what our instructions say, 30,000. I'm going to make this a constant. Use the final keyword, and usually to write constants in Java we use underscores. Years of, it's capitalized, service, and that's going to be 2. Okay, so I am going to make those constants, and then I actually have to have, if I'm going to ask the user how much money they make and how many years they've had service, so I need 2 more variables. Call it sal equals 0, and then years of service 0. So that's the variables to hold the data that we're going to ask the user to type in. So we need a print statement. How many or how much money do you make per year? And example, 20,000 for $20,000. So I'm giving them an example of how to enter it. I'm going to be really specific and tell the user what to do. We're going to put that into this field here. So it's going to be sal equals keyboard, the scanner, keyboard, object dot next int. Since that's an integer, I'm going to do the same thing with years. How many years have you worked at your company? That's going to go into years of service. Keyboard again is our scanner. Notice we only need 1 scanner. We don't need to repeat that. Those are integers. What's integers? Sal and years of service are integers. That's why we're using next int. If they were doubles, we'd say next double. And again, we get the keyboard from this object scanner. Okay, so we're going to get the data. I'm going to save this and compile. Compile as you go. And it compiles. Let's run it, see what we're getting. How much money do you make? 20,000. How many years have I worked to? Okay, so that part works. So now we need to do the processing part. Okay, we're going to ask the question. If sal is, what did we say? You have to make more than 30,000. It's greater than 30,000. Print system.out println. You qualify for the loan. Else you do not qualify. I start out, I break my program down into parts. Okay, so here's how you write up an if statement, right? You just use the word if, and in parentheses you have to have something here. Now this is a structure, and I can put braces here and here. This is perfectly legal. You might see code like this. Right? But I don't need these braces if I only have 1 statement inside my if statement, so or my else, right? So I do put them in if I need more, but I only have 1 statement there, so I don't really need those. So you remember that, because we do that with loops as well. You only have 1 thing happening inside your question, right? You don't need these, right? So that's how an if statement works, an if else. If I just had the if statement, I wouldn't code this, I'd take that out. But I need the else to say if I'd have that. But, you know, our code's going to work somewhat, right? It's not handling all of our instructions. So let's run that. Let's test it out. How much money do you make per year? I'm going to say 20,000. How many years I worked too? And it worked for me, right? Because what it says is you don't qualify for the loan. Because I put in 20,000, I have to make more than 30,000. Let's do it again. Let's put 30,000 in. You do not qualify for the loan. And that's because I put, well, let's do that one more time. If I put in 30,000 and I worked 3 years, you do not qualify for the loan. And that is because I put 30,000 in. It has to be greater than 30,000. So if I put in 31,000, say, and I work there, it says you qualify for the loan. So here I'm testing this if statement with different values, making sure that if I put in anything that's greater than 30,000, it's going to say this, and it's not going to say this. The problem with our code, though, is we need it also to be at least 2 years of service. So what I'm going to add, this is called a relational operator, right? And you'll see that in your module 9. What we also need in there is a logical operator. And logical operators are like this: ampersand for and, pipes, which is above the backslash, for, and we also have this for a not symbol. So these are called logical operators, right? This stuff, greater than, less than, greater than, or equal to, all those, right, double equals to, are relational operators, which we use all the time in if statements. Okay, so let's add to this. So if it's greater than 30, I also have to say and years of service must be at least 2, so greater than or equal to 2. Let me see if that compiles. It does. Notice that I have one parenthesis here. I don't have a parenthesis here and then one here. It's all inside this. So this is saying and. Both of these statements have to be true for this to be true. So now let me test it. So I'm going to say, okay, I make 40,000. That's going to get me the loan, right? What if I just have 1 year? Yep, I can't qualify. But if I have 40,000 and I have 2 years, I qualify. So there is your first example of how to write code that uses both relational and logical operators. And that's an if statement. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to do a switch statement, which is more than one if. So, and actually, I could say this is the process and output part. Does it actually together here. This is really, it's kind of like the math. So we're printing here and looking at the system. So that's how that would work. Input, process, output. Okay, let me know if you have questions.